Silas Markham Brooks was born in Plymouth, Connecticut in 1824 and died in Burlington, Connecticut in 1906. In between, he had some terrific adventures, some in our town of Canton. He must have been quite smart, as he did so well in Bristol Academy that the doctor with whom he boarded offered to pay for him to attend Yale Medical School. But Silas loved mechanical things and had a flair for inventions. While working in a clock shop in his 20s, he made a number of musical instruments, which brought him to the attention of P.T. Barnum. Barnum needed a new feature attraction for his American Museum in New York City and hired Brooks to make never-before-seen instruments for his Druid orchestra. Using the principle of the oboe, Brooks made an antique-looking instrument out of 20 cow horns that so pleased Barnum he contracted for several more and hired 3 German musicians to play them. Silas taught the musicians to play the crazy horns, and they gave their first concert in Tiffany's Hall in Collinsville in 1849. He even invented a mechanism that used powerful clock springs to magically open a coffin lid, raise up a body, grow fake oak trees out of an altar, and with the wave of a wand, explode them on fire. You can imagine what a spectacle that was for people at that time. Silas and the band played for Barnum in New York for 4 months. Then Brooks paid Barnum off and took the group on tour, making money everywhere they went. But Silas wanted to make more money, and after 2 years joined another investor in putting together a circus and engaging John Wise, the most famous American balloonist of the time, to make hydrogen balloon ascensions. Ballooning had become a popular, marvelous, and dangerous attraction across Europe and America. Brooks' entourage toured throughout Europe, but unfortunately the cost of making fresh hydrogen gas from sulfuric acid and iron filings, bankrupted them in 4 months. Silas closed the circus and toured with just the Druid band and another balloonist. Without the expense of the circus and the salary that had been guaranteed to John Wise, the venture stayed afloat. One day, when the balloonist was sick, Silas did the ascension on his own and he was hooked. In 1853, Silas built his first balloon and brought it back to Connecticut. His first ascension of this new balloon was sponsored by Sam Colt that July 4th, launching from Colt's Meadow south of Hartford. Silas then went on tour with this hazardous activity, making the first balloon ascensions ever seen in St. Louis, Chicago, and the state of Michigan. He survived numerous entanglements with wires, encounters with trains, mountains, and rooftops, and the destruction of several balloons. He even gave himself the title of professor, as most aeronauts that did, a real-life model of Professor Marvel in The Wizard of Oz. Brooks' next adventure began in 1855 when he signed a 5-year lease on a building in St. Louis and opened a museum modeled after Barnum's. He admitted that he was as big a humbug as Barnum, lying worse than Barnum ever did about some of his exhibits. Unfortunately, after 2 successful years running the museum, the economic panic of 1857 caused Silas to lose everything, and he left St. Louis with only the clothes on his back and his shotgun, dog, and balloon. For the next several years, Brooks conducted balloon ascensions throughout the Midwest, New York, and New England, sometimes taking up passengers. In those days, few people had experienced rising above the clouds, and Brooks realized he could expand his customer base by hiring an artist to produce a panorama, which consisted of long scrolls of cloth showing aerial views. He exhibited the 12-foot-high panels throughout New York State and Connecticut. They weighed about a ton and required 4 horses to transport. He lost money and eventually sold the panorama to a partner who washed out all the paint and made a profit selling the cloth. Poor Silas. So many of his ventures failed, and when he did make money, he plowed it into the next scheme. He wasn't lucky in his personal life either. In 1863, Brooks married Harriet Beach, but their only child died at 19 months of the measles, and Harriet left him to rejoin the circus. Silas told a friend she was fonder of horses than she was of me. So he returned to touring the Midwest and New England, offering balloon flights, including at least 5 from Cherry Park in Canton. People came from Hartford on the train to visit the park and see his balloon ascensions there. Finally, a disastrous flight from Bushnell Park in Hartford in 1884 ended his ballooning days. He was then in his 60s. Brooks continued inventing after giving up flight, at one point blowing himself up experimenting with a new wax. He survived, but sadly died penniless at age 82 and was buried simply in a pauper's grave. However, in 1997, the Connecticut Lighter Than Air Society of Hot Air Balloonists dedicated a plaque in the Burlington Cemetery to Silas M. Brooks, Connecticut's first balloonist, so he finally received the recognition his adventurous spirit deserved. His balloon basket was exhibited in the Canton Historical Museum for years before landing in a prominent exhibit in the New England Air Museum at Bradley Airport, which you can see today.